Man, the Niners cannot catch a break. So George Kittle, that big news, he's going to miss at least 4 weeks going on IR because of a hamstring injury. The bad news did not stop there because Brock Purdy in doubt for week 2 against the Saints with injuries to his non-throwing shoulder as well as a toe. And then after a rough week 1 outing, Jake Moody has been cut. The Niners have waived him and they are moving on. All right, back here on set, Jordan Giorgio, I'm Jacqueline D'Agostino, Leger Douzable, and Jonathan Jones is back with us. Guys, a lot can happen in a week, right? So your quarterback can have multiple injuries. You can have your star tight end go on the IR, and then you're moving on from your kicker. JJ, how concerning is that for a team that, regardless of the injuries that were happening last season, does and always will have high hopes in the NFC?
Yeah, I mean, it is a concern. It's a huge concern. At least the schedule gods have smiled kindly upon the San Francisco 49ers, right? If you look at these next few games that they were able to work their way through the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, they have the New Orleans Saints, who I think was just at the bottom of Pete Prisco's power rankings. You have the Arizona Cardinals, who just squeaked by Pete Prisco's worst team in his power rankings. And you have the Jacksonville Jaguars, Pete Prisco's own team. Those are the next 3 games on the schedule for the Niners. So, I mean, look, you obviously hope to have Brock Purdy over Mac Jones, but Kyle Shanahan has made a good quarterback out of a number of not so good quarterbacks over the years. And so if they have to turn to Mac Jones, you are hopefully getting the Kyle Shanahan infused Mac Jones versus the Jacksonville Jaguars Mac Jones, or the Bill Belichick isn't talking to you anymore Mac Jones. So that is one hope. But yeah, George Kittle, I think we knew after halftime, when George Kittle was not dressed for the rest of that Seattle Seahawks game, that he was not going to be playing at least this week. And now he's on injured reserve and will miss at least the next 4 weeks and potentially more. But some good news. They do have Ricky Pearsall. They are hoping that Juwan Jennings won't miss any time. And lastly, Kendrick Bourne signed with the team yesterday. He could, should, would, and will be able to play in week 2.
Yeah, it's major concerns. Anytime you have a top 2 or 3 tight end in the NFL going down with a hamstring injury, and you know this, JJ, those things can linger. So, yes, he's on IR. We don't know when he'll be able to actually come back, because I'm sure they're going to take their time to make sure he's 100% healthy, because with hamstring injuries, I've had one before, you're more susceptible to get another one if you come back too early. And then with the Brock Purdy injury, I'm going to be frank with you, JJ. He didn't play well yesterday. That offense didn't play well either, especially when George Kittle went out of the game. He had 2 interceptions, and even the game winner to Jake Tunges was a lucky play. Like, that should have been picked off by Tariq Woolen. So there are some big concerns, because this offense has looked like a shell of itself with all the injuries that have occurred on that side. Now, Robert Saleh had the defense playing really well, and Nick Bosa became Superman when he needed it the most, sack, fumble to end the game. But you were just talking about the New Orleans Saints and how the Arizona Cardinals escaped that game. New Orleans is a tough place to play, and I think that fan base will be there again this week, because that team showed fight and grit and almost had an opportunity to potentially take that game into overtime at the end of that game. So whether it's Mac Jones or Brock Purdy, that's not going to be an easy win for the San Francisco 49ers.
No, it won't be. Hopefully it's more aesthetically pleasing than that game that the Saints and Cardinals played, because I can't believe that the Saints were out there in those uniforms. I do agree with you that the San Francisco 49ers didn't play all that well. One could say they were fortunate to come away with a win. You know that in division ball games, you just want to escape with a win. You know that in week 1, there weren't a lot of pretty W's out there. You just have to escape week 1 with that W. And the fact that they were playing in Seattle, I think everyone knows that you don't play normal games in Seattle. So the fact that the defense was able to stand pat, to sort of hold down the guard, great. You do worry if Trent Williams is starting to finally show some age, right? You do wonder how much they're really going to miss George Kittle, and if Ricky Pearsall can actually catch 100 receiving yards in the next few games. And yeah, I don't mean to diminish who they are about to play, but when you consider that when George Kittle's eligible to come back, they have the Rams, and then the Bucks, and then the Falcons, and then the Texans, I would rather him miss this slate of 4 games than that slate of 4 games in October.
Okay, so we know about Purdy, we know about Kittle. You mentioned it. They also go on to cut kicker Jake Moody as well. How concerning is this kicker situation, JJ? And we understand that there's some other kicker news from around the league.
Yeah, kickers really let their teams down this week, right? And here's something that you need to know about kickers, and this is important. The week 1 field goal percentage and extra point percentage, both low since 2022. Wow. Okay, that was just a couple of years ago. But here's why that is important. In week 1, you have the best possible conditions, more or less, right? You have the best field that you're going to have, the best sort of weather, right? It's the warmest out. The ball should travel farther than it ever has. You should be okay. And on top of that, this offseason, there was a rule change, right, Leger? Where now teams are able to prepare the K-balls far longer than they have been in the past. Usually you get about an hour before the game, the ball gets busted out of its packaging, and that's really the football that you get to kick with. Now teams can prepare the footballs as the kickers and punters like. And so in theory, you should be able to kick your best ball that you ever have in the entire NFL. Last year, didn't we talk about how kickers have been better than ever? But the Atlanta Falcons right now just signing John Parker Romo to the practice squad. He's going to be in a competition this week with Younghoe Koo. So the Falcons could have a new kicker. We know that the San Francisco 49ers are going to have a new kicker. And Cairo Santos with the Chicago Bears missing that field goal last night and then not getting the ball through the back of the end zone, potentially costing the Bears the opportunity to get the football back. All you got to say is kickers, man.
I was going to say, we're talking a lot about kickers here, only in week 1. And as week 2 is ahead of us, we're already thinking about the playoffs because that's what we do, right?
Playoffs.
We're looking at the percentage of making the playoffs based off of a 2-game start. So if you start 2-0, it looks pretty good, over 64%. If you're right there at 500 after week 2, it goes down to 41.6%. And if you start off the season slow, I was going to say Cincinnati Bengals style, but that's not really the case this season. 0-2, you're right around 12%, right? And so we have a lot of good matchups that we have on deck where we're going to see who's in that threshold of 1-1, 0-2, 2-0. We're starting with the Bears and the Lions because, Leger, it's the 2 teams in the division that did not get a win in week 1, and they're facing off against each other. So I guess which team, and I feel like it's going to be the Lions, right, if they do start 0-2, has a better shot of clawing their way back into the playoff race?
I would say the Detroit Lions, and yes, we saw the graphic, it says 12% since 1990, but to your point, lately in the NFL, more and more teams, we saw the Broncos do it last year, also your Bengals did it in 2022, and then 23, the Houston Texans did it. But the Detroit Lions, and I knew it was going to be a bit of a struggle for them with new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator, more specifically on the offensive side of the ball. Ben Johnson going to the Chicago Bears. They got out physical by the Green Bay Packers, and you're not used to saying that for a Dan Campbell team. So that was a bit concerning. Obviously, they have 3 new starters in the interior of their offensive line who got beat up and made some miscues as well. They were not able to run the football at all, and that has been the bread of what the Detroit Lions are. But because of the skill set and all the skill position players they have, I feel like I have more confidence in them if they were to lose to the Chicago Bears. Now, the only thing is, Jacqueline, that would make them not only 0-2, 0-2 in the division as well if they lose this game. So that would be massive. But I have more faith in the Detroit Lions to climb out of 0-2-0.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think we're all in agreement that we would have more faith in the Lions because they have the better team, right? On paper, when you look at talent, when you look at top 100 players, top 150 players, the Detroit Lions certainly have a better collection of them. Chicago Bears are going to have to play better offensive football, right? I mean, I know that they scored 24 points. One of those was a pick 6. And so you're going to have to get better play from Caleb Williams. You're going to have to get better play from that offensive line, that reworked offensive line. That how many pre-snap penalties did they have last night? 4 or 5? It just kept happening for them. And, you know, I know that J.J. McCarthy was able to really put on that cape, but I did like the pressure that front for Chicago was able to impress upon the Minnesota Vikings while missing Christian Darrisaw, of course. So if they can do that same sort of pressure that we saw last night, if they can apply that pressure to Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions, like we saw from the Green Bay Packers, perhaps Ben Johnson in this game against a team that he knows quite well, maybe, just maybe, he can send Detroit to 0-2.
All right, Lige, JJ, we certainly appreciate it talking to us about some upcoming matchups that we have to look forward to in week 2 of the NFL. And we have a loaded slate for you. The NFL on CBS, the Bills and the Jets, Patriots and the Dolphins, the Jags and the Bengals. I don't know who I'm going to root for. I'm obviously rooting for the Jags, but I love the Bengals. You know I love for my former team. And then at 4:05, we got the Broncos and the Colts all going down on Sunday, and you can stream it on Paramount Plus as well.